Very excited to welcome Will Montgomery back to Beltway football. Will, you got a puppy, dude. Big news.
Yep, we got a puppy, a golden doodle. It's comfortably peeing in our house and biting my kids and my wife and myself. So yeah, times are good.
What's her name?
Ginger. So she is a little bit of a reddish tone to her. You know, the golden doodle, no shedding. You're supposed to brush her every other day, which hopefully somebody in the house is doing that. Thankfully, I'm not, but yeah, it's going.
That's awesome, man.
I kill
Um,
for a no shed dog. My
Yeah,
dog just sheds all over the house all the time. It's crazy.
yeah. Mm.
yeah, I had a black lab mutt passed away, but I mean that fur was everywhere. Um, Dude, last time we talked, I think was about two-thirds of the way through the Commanders season. Um, Obviously there was stuff to be excited about then, the way they finished the year though, and then the playoff run. What do you make of this season, dude?
No, this season was a magical season. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the 2012 season, but this season was a little better than that.
Right.
Just, this season they were winning. Defense was playing good. Offense was, doing well. Running game was working. Obviously, dynamic quarterback. It seemed like the stars were aligned, except, in that last game like everything, the turnover battle usually calls the game. So I don't have the stats on the whoever wins the turnovers wins, but overwhelmingly, if you lose the turnover battle, that's going to cost you in the end.
What was your impression of Jayden this year, and how did he work kind of behind this offensive line?
You know, I obviously you can't say enough good things about him. I think he can throw the deep ball amazingly. I think, when they're running the zone read, he's making a lot of good decisions. Maybe not 100%, but at least 90% of the time it looks like he's giving it or pulling it when he needs to. The off-schedule stuff I think is amazing. Obviously I played in Denver also, so I'm tracking the other guy over there, Bo Nix.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me tracking the two rookie quarterbacks. I think they both played amazingly, a little bit different. Bo's getting the ball out a little quicker, took less sacks. I don't know if there's a knock on Jayden, but if there's one slight knock, it's he took a little bit of extra sacks than say the guy Bo Nix did. But when you're taking some extra sacks, that just means you're extending plays and hitting those deeper shots down the field. So if you're a scrambling quarterback, I think there's going to be a little bit of risk reward where occasionally you take some extra sacks because you're holding it longer than 3 seconds.
Yeah, I think, and he's trying to take those deep shots, like you said, and um, I think you only saw it in a couple games too. I think
Mhm.
by and large, he tried to kind of stay on schedule. I thought Kingsbury. What did you think of the offense, and how big of a deal is it that they're keeping Cliff at least another year?
No, I think Cliff is amazing. And I think in the last interview we had, I referenced, the similarities to Shanahan, where
Sure.
Cliff sets up in his own way, like you said, the gap scheme runs. He'll run, a little bit of zone, a little bit of counter, a little bit of the pin and pull play where you're pulling people. And then what I love is he runs the play action off all of those. Then he does a little quick screen out to his receivers. So he sort of has this safe plays that he calls, but then he has the deep shots that he'll call after, he hits a couple of those runs. So for, being an offensive lineman, I really like how he calls those plays. Now, if I am going to be give a little bit of criticism to him, play number one of the Eagles game, he's empty drop back 1st and 10. If you're 1st and 10, to me as an O lineman, I'd rather go run, play action, maybe a little quick screen. I think you need to save your drop backs for the obvious drop back downs because pass protection, I think, is the hardest thing to do for an offensive lineman. So when you have 1st and 10, give me run, give me play action. Then you want to stay in check with that. Where you want to be 2nd and 5, 3rd and 1. You always want the threat of run or pass. But if you're a defensive lineman and you look back there, even though it's 1st and 10 and there's no running backs and it's empty, then you kind of get in your sprinter stance and those defensive linemen get hungry to kind of rush that passer.
What'd
Surrounded
you
by O
make?
linemen here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are. All the big guys like the big guys. What'd you make of the O line this year? And I guess kind of as you look towards free agency draft, where do you think they can improve, or where do you think they will improve?
No, I think the O-line did really well. Obviously, it kind of hurt a little bit with your right guard going down there in the playoffs. So I think your fill in there did admirably, but I think, Sam Cosmi is definitely, your guy that you want in there. I think your left tackle spot. I think the rookie over there, he's a good run blocker. At times, he got a little bit exposed in pass protection, but as a rookie, that takes a couple of years to learn sometimes. I mean, you go back and watch a rookie, Trent Williams, out there. He gave up some sacks and things along those natures. But if you look at the run game, I think your rookie left tackle here for the Commanders did a lot of good things, and I think he can sort of get better and learn to be a better pass blocker. The rest of the line, I think, is also a very solid, good group. Now, when you compare them to like the Eagles, it looks like the Eagles have Pro Bowlers on both sides of the ball at every position,
Like Hall of
up and
Famers.
down, up
Yeah.
and down the O
Everywhere.
line
Yeah.
and the D line. You're like, I don't. It's not that you don't see a hole. It looks like they have a top 10 player at every single spot. So being good is nice, but being on a Pro Bowl level at every spot on the O and D line, that's just where you can impose your will, during the game deep into the playoffs.
Dude, I totally agree with you. I thought everything with Washington was pretty good last year, but Philly just is great everywhere. And
Yeah.
that's so difficult to have in the division. I was curious though. I mean, you played for the Skins for 5 seasons, right?
Yeah,
4?
maybe parts of six if you
Okay.
add that last little Zorn playoff run where we missed the playoffs.
Was that the end of '08?
Yeah, so I had
Yeah.
into '08. Yep. So I had
Okay.
Zorn for a couple years, and then Shanahan came in for 4 years.
Um, so obviously 2012 that you referenced earlier was just an outright rocket ship in this town. But you still live here, you're IT cadre, like you're still in the area, part of the DMV. How did this year as like the the city getting into it feel compared to 12 as a player?
It felt amazing. Now in 12, I was intentionally off of Twitter and I tried to not go down that rabbit hole of the social media
Yeah,
clickbait
sure.
stuff, where a lot of the players these days, I feel like they could do themselves a solid and get off social media because guys like you and Grant and Danny and everyone else, they're doing their job. There's going to be some good, some bad. I think the way you do that social media right as a player is you promote your charities and things along those, maybe your clothing line or whatever. But I think that the town was about as hyped as I can imagine it. I was talking with my brother-in-law. We were referencing the last time the Skins were in the NFC Championship game. I think it was like early '90s when there was like the Atlanta playoff game when the seat cushions were coming down. So I remember that was my childhood when I was like 9 or 10 years old. So we were talking all about, oh, where were you when the seat cushion game in Atlanta hit like
Yeah.
30 plus years ago? So there's that. There's the 12 season, and then this season was just on par with some of those rocket ship seasons over the last 30 years.
Yeah, man. You and I are about the same age. I'm a little older. And that I'm curious, and I don't know this, but because of like I just I fear, or I think we know that there was some level of erosion over the last 10 years, just with the end of the Dan era and just how bad everything went. But it felt really close to back. And I think, dude, I mean, you talk about social media remarkably, who I think handles social media the best of especially at that position? Jayden could care less. Like every once in a while, he posts about a brand sponsorship or whatever. When he
Or
does,
Pepsi Rookie of the Week, baby. Come on.
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's crazy, dude. Um, Also, Monty, happy birthday. We're recording on
Oh,
Valentine's Day, but your
Oh,
birthday
thank
was
you.
yesterday.
happy birthday,
Yeah,
bud.
yeah, just hit the big four too. So yeah, it comes around and keeps on coming here. So thank you.
I'm 43. What does a former offensive lineman turned tech contractor, I don't know the right term for what you do, now, but what do you get for your 42nd birthday?
What do I get? I got I got a cake from Cold Stone with some
Nice.
candles on it. My wife says, "Do you want anything for your birthday? Everything we get you and my family gets you, you always hate. So like, what is it that you want?" I don't know. I guess I'm stingy with my stuff. If I want something, I get it. So I get some whiskey. I get maybe some gift cards to go out to eat. I'm like, listen, if I can eat it, drink it, or have an experience, that's kind of what I want. I don't need some little plastic thing that's going to be in the trash in 2 weeks.
I'm
So.
with you there, dude.
What kind
Having
of whiskey are we
kids,
working with?
yeah. What is the booze?
Maybe some Blanton, some Angel Envy, some of that type of stuff.
That's
Strong.
smooth stuff,
Strong. Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, some Woodford Reserve.
I wonder if it's the same. Do you have girls or boys?
One girl, one boy.
Okay, where I'm at with kids, is birthdays and like holidays, like Valentine's Day. Like it's more for the kids because they get into it. Like
Yeah.
I'd rather I find my birthday, frankly, to be an inconvenience. Like I'd rather not have to like
Well, it's also right in the middle
do
of
any
football
of it.
season, so it's like it's tough
Yeah.
timing to
Well,
do
birthdays,
anything.
and let's just bring out all the holidays because we have extended family in the area. And then it's like, okay, do we really have to get a gift for two sister-in-laws, two brother-in-laws, the father-in-law, mother-in-law? It's like, how about we just get our own kids gifts and everyone else, you're on your own because
Just
it's
get them all Commanders
exhausting
jerseys.
getting
Just full
everybody
Commanders jerseys.
something, that's not just going to end up in the garbage in a couple weeks.
Dude, I'll go one further. I prefer working Thanksgiving than having to deal with things. Like I love, like send me to Jerry World every year, dude. No problem.
You know
I
what we
don't want to
do?
work Christmas, but Thanksgiving is such a cluster of things. Send me to Jerry World every year.
So
That
we host.
2012 Thanksgiving was so elite in at Jerry World.
Oh yeah, at Jerry World. Well, speaking of that 2012 at Jerry World, I think my family was hosting when I was gone, and we won that game. And I think I accidentally got a couple of good blocks. So Joe Buck and Troy Aikman mentioned my name a couple of times on TV. So they were rocking and rolling when I was not, in Jerry World that year. But yeah, when we're hosting here locally now, I just go out and play. My responsibility is play with the kids in the backyard. So I'm facilitating games
Hmm.
all day long.
All right.
That's not a bad gig. Um,
I want to get back to football or with one question real quick.
how dare you?
Yeah, I know. How dare I? Just because we mentioned 2012 and you worked with RG3, obviously, from year one to year two, center quarterback relationship. How does that evolve? How does that grow? Does having that offseason, that full offseason together really help a lot?
No, that's really important. And it's not just the center quarterback relationship, it's also, the quarterback knowledge of the offense too. I'm sure you all saw the interview with Tom Brady recently before the Super Bowl, and he mentioned how his superpower was being in the right play, how that's also Peyton Manning's superpower. So that's something that you don't really see from the media or the fan perspective. You just see somebody run the ball and throw the ball and think you know the end of the story. You don't see, like, for example, in the Commanders Eagles games, I think that they were maybe out leveraged, maybe up to 10 plays where we had five blockers against six defenders, or six blockers against seven defenders, or things of those natures, where Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, 100% of the time you were in the right play. You were running the right direction. You had 5-on-5, 6-on-6, 7-on-7. If they brought the safety down, then you were passing it. If you checked to something and they rotated late, then you can reload it back to the original. And that's something that, people always ask with the Peyton Manning and then the Omaha. He was just basically playing a game, as Simon says, so he could get into the right play. He would go through two, three, four dummy counts just so he can maybe kind of see a rotation of the defense, know the exact play, run right, run left, run middle, check quick screen, maybe check to the deep shot. So if you're checking into the right play, that's just as important as how you throw it and how you run it and where you run it. And then one more to add
Yeah.
on to that. Let's just say the defense is only rushing four or five defenders. Then guess what? You have five blockers on your O line. So he would always try. When I say he, Peyton Manning would always slide the O line to pick up the running backs guy because he always wants his back as an outlet as a check down pass. So if Peyton Manning says, "Okay, we're only getting five rushers," screw the O line's guy. That linebacker's not coming, so I'm going to redirect the O line to pick up the backs guy. Now my back can get out and always be a safety valve. So things to that nature also, where you're always in the perfect pass protection. That is when you know you're in the highest level of a playing ball.
That's really cool. That's fascinating stuff. What would you say they need to do? Like, what should be priority one this offseason?
Well, it's hard to say that when you got into the final four of the
Right.
league of 32. You can beat the Eagles when they didn't have their quarterback in the regular season. So you're competitive with the Eagles now. Now, what do you have to do to win the Super Bowl, win your division? You're going to have to play the Eagles. You're going to have to play the best O line and D line in the world. So I think you need to get maybe a little bit stronger there to be competitive with them. I think you are competitive with the Eagles now. You can't turn the ball over. I mean, that's easier said than done. Just to coach, hey, hold on to the ball. So how do you coach holding on to the ball? I mean, defensively, you can work the turnover drill. I'm sure you've seen now over the last 10 years, guys are punching that ball out more and
Yeah.
more. Offensively, I don't know. I mean, I never was a ball carrier. Hold on to the dang ball. I mean, that's so I think that That's easier said than done. You can drill that a little bit if you can get a little more competitive on the O&D lines. And now I think another thing, historically, offense wins games, defense wins championships. I know I played with a guy named Von Miller. I played against a guy named Aaron Donald. There's those Giants teams years ago with the great D line. If you can rush four and play coverage, that's the best defense you can ever play. You four guys, go rush the passer, make him throw off his back foot. You can have an average secondary as far as I'm concerned. You want four nasty studs on the defensive line that'll cover up an average secondary, and go from there.
I mean, that's basically what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Um, when you look at kind of the free agent class, like you look at a guy like Mekhi Becton, who obviously wasn't a great tackle, but moved inside and played well at guard. But he also played well at guard, surrounded by one of the best offensive lines in football. So, like, as he hits free agency, how do you evaluate? Is he actually elite or very good at guard himself, or was he just a part of a great O line, so he looked good?
That's a great question. And that brings me to the point, who plays next to you matters. There's been times when I've played next to a Pro Bowler named Kyle Long. I played next to a Pro Bowler, Jordan Gross. I played next to a Pro Bowler, Nick Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson. I've played next to plenty of Pro Bowlers. And when you play against an elite guy, it covers up your mistakes. Sometimes that could be dead wrong and they would cover for you. Sometimes, a Pro Bowler has the communication that's on the next level. When you have two or three guys on one side of the ball and they don't know the scheme that well, and you're kind of looking around and you see guys running through free, one, there's a mental problem over there because they don't know the offense that well. But two, there's a physical problem. If you got a stud next to you and you're on a thick double team, that double team is going to be set no matter what with a Pro Bowler or a high level guy next to you. If you have a guy that's not quite sure, he's playing slow mentally, his technique isn't as good, that's going to make you look bad because on your double team combinations, your guy next to you is not in the right spot. So yes and yes, you can be covered up, but with the stud next to you, or you can look good individually. But when in doubt, if your buddy next to you is a stud, it's going to make you look better as well.
For sure. That's like a lot of there's a lot of excitement about Josh Sweat being a free agent, and obviously he had that great Super Bowl. I just wonder with some of these Eagles defensive players on the free agency market, if they're not Sweat's obviously very good, but like being on that Eagles D line where everybody's loaded is going to make you look a lot better. And I just would have a little caution paying up based off a Super Bowl performance with a group that is that good in Philly.
Well, right. And sometimes I know everyone wants to look at the sexy sack numbers, but even the run stop, there are some guys, 98 Carter, 93 Williams, 97 Moreau for the Eagles. Those guys are long, lengthy, and playing the run combos perfectly. I don't know if you guys were watching it, how I was watching it, but they put their long arms square in our O lineman's chest and held their gap and leverage, and they did not get double teamed. They allowed their running back, their linebackers to flow. So those three guys in particular in the run game, I thought were very stout and made it very hard to run the ball. So when you're evaluating these defensive line free agents, ideally your guy could do everything. He could be a run stuffer and a pass rusher. Sometimes you need both or mixed bag or develop a guy. But if you can find some of those long arm guys that can stuff the run and rush the passer, that's what you want.
Dude, it's
Well, when you look at
fascinating.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just one of the best explanations of run blocking that I ever heard. It was explaining what D linemen are trying to do, and it was David Rye, who's the Commanders tight ends coach now. I don't know if you know him, but it was Rye and Logan Paulson just talking. I know you know Logan, and both are like high level football nerd, right? And I'm just kind of a fly on the wall listening to the conversation, and it's basically like the inverse of what the defense wants to do is what the offense is trying to do at the line. And when a D lineman is able to stand a guy up and extend his arms when they're trying to run block you, you're cooked. You got no chance.
Right. Well, and I just think of sometimes when I had to block Chris Canty or somebody like that guy's like 6'9", or some of these other like mammoth guys in the league. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 6'3", my arms aren't as long as his. So if I just come with a standard technique of hands under and up, he's just going to make me look like a little high schooler. So there are ways around that. You can kind of go to your wrestler like a chop pump, single underhook. You can kind of MacGyver your hands in there one way or the other and kind of use their length against them at times. So if you're just going to this standard, as Joe Beagle used to say, he used to hate when the lineman would use the hug him and squeeze him technique because if your hands are wide, that means the defensive lineman's hands are underneath you.
Right.
Step one is under and up, but sometimes that doesn't work either if you're going up against a 6'9" guy. So then you have to go to your other tricks, almost turn into like an ultimate fighter where you're sinking the chop club and rip, like
Right.
like you're almost doing like a pass rush moves just to get the guy's hands off of you.
Hands in, you win, right? Um,
Yeah.
when you look at John Allen, Deron Payne for the Commanders, what do you think the issue is on the interior there with them? And not that you're picking one guy or the other, but do you see more upside in one guy versus the other guy?
No, I mean, I don't want to say there's an issue there either way. Obviously Allen was coming back off of a peck and playing with some of that stuff. And I think also when you have a game with like four turnovers and then you get down, and then all they're going to do is run the ball. And against, I feel like it's almost unfair to talk about the Eagles because they have the best O line in the
Right.
world. So comparatively, it's a top 10 defense against the best O line in the world. And you get down three scores. What are you going to do when you're up three scores? You're going to run the ball. You're going to let your big O line wear you down. I don't care who you are. If you're up three, four touchdowns and you have a bunch of 340-pound dudes leaning on you, that's going to get hard eventually. So I think that I don't want to cry wolf or anything about major things to fix. I think it's mostly intact. Maybe just nip it and make some small fine adjustments. And if you don't turn the ball over, that could be a competitive. Like imagine those four turnovers turned into touchdown drives.
Dude,
What?
It's a
just the,
different
the
football
Eckler
game.
fumble in the second half. They had finally forced a punt. They had the ball at midfield. They'd already picked up two first downs on that drive, and they're only down 11. Like, even
So
if you get
yeah.
three out of that, it's a one-score
So
game.
defensively, pick up four turnovers. Offensively, don't turn it over. Now you're looking at the
I know.
Commanders versus the Chiefs in the Super Bowl against a Chiefs team that this is not as
No,
dangerous as they've been in recent years. So you are not far off, really, from being a Commanders Super Bowl team.
that's crazy, man.
Crazy.
We've kept you a long time, and it's
Yeah.
Valentine's Day, and you have a family, and yesterday was your birthday. You're wearing your Hokies sweatshirt, and while I've never been to Lane Stadium, and I know that that's something I need to fix. The problem is we're all pretty busy in the fall, so I went and looked because I feel like the Hokies always had like Thursday night games and stuff.
Of
So
course.
I look at the schedule for this fall, I guess. Um, that season opener against South Carolina in Atlanta with Shane Beamer on the other side, does that have you a little nervous, dude?
Well, we originally kind of wanted Shane Beamer to be our coach.
Right.
Right.
So I think South Carolina is one of those places that they're sort of up and coming, and you go there, and it's kind of like Lane 2.0. I've never been there, but from what I hear, it gets rocking and rolling.
They're playing. It's neutral site. They're playing in Atlanta. At least you got
Okay,
that.
right. So it's not your Lane State. I know you talk about wanting to go to Lane Stadium, so it's not. Yes, short story is yes. I am a little nervous about that game. I think we are capable of winning. With this name, image, likeness stuff, it's kind of crazy how we're losing coaches, losing players. I'm like, I'm not sure what's going on. It's like, is Virginia Tech now a stepping stone to go to Ohio State and Michigan now, or are we
Crazy,
going to
man.
be able to compete, or what's
Dude, I
going
think a
on?
big part of it is like ACC schools are in trouble with the money. Like,
Well, their TV deal is like
yeah.
is
And I
terrible.
think they thought they were so ahead of their time when they signed their TV deal for 25 years or whatever. But now the Big Ten and the SEC are re-upping every 5 years, and the money's just if you're paying the
Well,
kids and the
Crazy.
other
Yeah.
schools have more money, it's not that
I,
complicated of a
I know
decision.
I know Tech just lost our O-line coach to go to Notre Dame, and we lost a couple of our
Really?
blue chippers to go elsewhere to the big SEC schools. I know we're also funneling them back and going to the portal and all that, but it's a whole new ball game. I don't know if you guys listened to the Bill Belichick press conference when he day one of
Uh-uh.
coaching UNC, but it was hilarious. He just treated it exactly like NFL. He says, "Okay, I have my GM, that's going to do this. I have my money guy that's going to see how much money we have allocated. I have my college scout for opening a free agency every year. I have my high school scout here." And it really is a professional system now because you have to scout. The portal opens every year. So legitimately, you have to scout every college player every year that you might be able to get the next year.
Dude, when we were in when we were at Radio Row for the Super Bowl, Mike Loxley sat down with us, who's the head coach at Maryland. And he said, he's like, man, there's no more development. He's like, everything is year to year, and it's completely changed the game.
Which,
One hokey thing I'm fascinated by, and I'm curious, I don't know if you played with him or overlapped at all, but Mike Vick taking that job at Norfolk State, if he finds some success there, is there any better person to send to Blacksburg and let him run the program?
well, it's almost like a Deion Sanders
That's
route, right?
exactly what I was thinking,
So
dude.
he's kind of trying to go Deion Sanders 2.0, win a couple years there, then jump up a ladder and go from there. I think that your name recognition, like a Mike Vick, like a Deion Sanders, that's going to bring you some athletes and part of the way. I think ultimately now, if guys are making hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars in college, I think at the end of the day, it's almost just going to be who can pay me the most.
Right.
Now I know I help out at the high school level as well. Now, all this name, image, likeness is funneling down to the high school level too, because now, like you mentioned, nobody wants to develop kids; they want ready kids. So when you're coming out of high school now, you almost have to go to a tier two school that wants you. You get developed there, and then you have to portal over to the tier one school.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy on even the trickle down effect, even to the high school level.
Yeah,
It's like the minor leagues all of a sudden in college football. Did you
a buddy
overlap
of
with
mine's on the Syracuse staff and said like the guys that are getting the most screwed out of all this are like 3-star high school prospects. Like this kid's a good linebacker and would be getting offers and visits, and now nobody's paying attention.
But now the workaround now is you go to the JUCO route, and it's like an extra redshirt year, so you can be 2 years of JUCO,
Right.
go somewhere in redshirt, and you can be a fourth year freshman now. Unfortunately, it's like almost the path you have to take in order to game the system now.
Did you overlap with Deshaun Jackson for a season or no?
No, no, I miss him. And by the way, I was the year after Mike Vick. I did play with Marcus Vick though. So
that was wild.
Yeah.
That was a run.
All right, now we've definitely kept
Lane Stadium is elite though. We were there in like 2008 for a Thursday night Terps game, and when Enter Sandman starts and that place gets going, it's rocking. It's cool.
No, I'll leave you with this. I took my family and my kids to their first game at Lane this year against Marshall. So that was a good. If you want to go to Lane, go early. It's warm and the crowd is still upbeat because we haven't lost 2 games yet. But go early. So I took my family. My wife went to JMU, and we were around campus. We were doing the whole entertainment thing. She's like, I really could see myself going to Virginia Tech. You kind of JMU is up and coming. I know there's Sun Belt, but it's not the atmosphere of a Lane Stadium, that's for sure.
Yeah, I want to get down there to a game. Dude, my last thing. I always enjoy talking to you, and I appreciate you making time for us. Did you see the graphic they posted during the Super Bowl of the size difference of offensive linemen from Super Bowl 1 to Super Bowl 59? And basically, guys are now like 5-6 inches taller and 100 pounds heavier. You played, and the Shanahans believed in lighter linemen. Are you surprised at like the size figures of some of these guys now?
Well, I still feel like there's 2 different schools of thought. You look at the Shanahan tree where there's like 7 coaches now of that tree, maybe even more. But they're still like the league is split. It's like the old school Baltimore, Eagles. There's like, you want to run straight over a guy or do you want to run around the guy?
Right.
So the Shanahan tree, I feel like, is still lighter versus, the Parcells, the Eagles, the Baltimore, where they want to run through you. So there's still 2 ways to do it, in my opinion.
Fair. More than one way to skin a cat or whatever. Monty, we'll let you go, dude. You've been great. Thank you as always.
All right, appreciate it.
Thanks so much, bud.